If you're ready to buy or sell your home, then stop in at 4234 Market Street to let one of the agents at Howard Hanna Professionals help. Our friendly and knowledgeable agents can help you find the key to your dream home. Looking for a new career? Howard Hanna Professionals can help there too. Howard Hanna Professionals will assist new and experienced agents with the startup fees for an exciting career in real estate. Call Katrina Laurie at 814-726-2000 for more information.
Here at Casella, we make temporary dumpster rental easy, offering services that are perfect for construction, remodeling, special events, or other short-term projects. Casella dumpsters are available in a wide range of sizes to fit any job. Our dedicated customer service team will help you choose the right size container and service level for your project and schedule hassle-free removal based on your specific needs. The right size dumpster, when you want it, where you want it, removed when you say so.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into this episode of Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg with you here on Your Daily Local. And we are joined this week by our special guest, Warren County First Assistant District Attorney Cody Brown. And we are up here on remote this week at Cable Hollow Golf Course in their new indoor-outdoor facility that they've got up here. The folks up here at Cable Hollow, the Stewart family, was very generous enough to allow us to come and record this episode. It's a bit breezy today, and Cody, we were talking earlier. I think they might want to open this thing up come the fall and put some game lands on there. Got about a dozen deer or so hanging out back behind us. So if you see us distracted, we're counting the deer in the field behind us.
Yeah, there's 9, I believe, right now.
Yeah, and most of them just kind of looking at us, wondering what these guys are doing in this building that's usually empty on Wednesday in early April.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about you, and got a big primary upcoming here on May 20th. You are one of the candidates for Warren County District Attorney.
Yes. Yeah. Excited to be running for district attorney.
And so I guess kind of let's back up a little bit. And you're a Warren native and been here most of your life, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was born here in Warren County and grew up here. I went to TDU Charter School.
So how did you go from TDU Charter to wanting to be in law, and what brought you to the district attorney's office?
Well, it's not really that an exciting story. It's very what you would think of when you think of someone that's going to law school. Like I said, I graduated from TDU Charter School. I went to Penn State Barron and got my degree in political science. Upon graduation there, I went to Western Michigan Law School. It's in Lansing, Michigan, and got my law degree from there. I was lucky enough, my last semester while in law school, I was able to come back home and clerk for Judge Hammond and Judge Skirta to finish up my degree. And then after graduating, they gave me the opportunity to clerk full-time for them. I clerked with them, passed the bar. I got sworn in on a Friday, started in the DA's office on a Monday.
Okay.
So I was very lucky to be able to come home. My wife is from here as well, so we moved back home and are raising our kids.
So was there? I mean, obviously went to Barron and then in Lansing. I mean, was there any kind of, hey, maybe this is a place I'd like to stick around and make a career, or did you always want to come back home?
That thought kind of went through my mind, but I've always liked it here in Warren. I'm an outdoorsman. I like hunting and fishing. So it really wasn't that much of a thought in my mind. We both really wanted to come back here.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you guys have obviously made a life here. And how long have you been with the district attorney's office?
10 years. So I started as the second assistant. That was a new position when I got hired. Caleb Nage was the first assistant. Rob Green hired me. I believe it was his second year as district attorney in his first term. And I've worked my way up through since then.
And so, I mean, as in a prosecutor's office, it's, like you said, you got second assistant and first assistant, and then pretty much the only way to gain promotion beyond that, right, is to now run for district attorney. And what was it about that position that made you say, okay, this is something I want to go for in a position I'd like to attain?
Well, being in the prosecutor's office for the last 10 years, I've really formed a passion for trying to get drugs off our streets, standing up for the victims of crimes, whether that's a sexual crime, a violent crime, arson crimes, anything of that sort. And it's just something that's really motivated me, something that I enjoy is fighting for justice for everyone. And it's something that I want to continue on. When Rob said that he was not running for a third term, I felt that I had gained the experience, had the opportunity, the knowledge, especially as being the first assistant. That really gives you a lot of knowledge. And I felt and do feel that I'm ready to step up for that.
And so, I toyed with this, and I mentioned we had second assistant district attorney Casey Strickland, who was also running. I was on a couple of weeks ago, and I framed this, and I still don't know if like is the right word, but when you're prosecuting, is there a certain type of case that you maybe want to gravitate towards, or something that you feel you're more proficient in, or enjoy? I mean, again, it seems like such a wrong word, right? You don't obviously you don't like crime.
You don't like crime happening,
yeah. But is there a certain kind of case that you feel yourself drawn towards more? I guess is maybe the best way to put that.
So through my 10 years, I've handled everything from traffic tickets to arsons, embezzlements to homicide cases. But because of certain things that I sit on, like I sit on the board of the CAC, there's certain crimes that I don't handle because I don't want to form any kind of conflict of interest. But a lot of the cases that I focus on, because of different roles that I have in the DA's office, is the drug task force, the drug crimes, the firearms cases, and some of the more higher violence crimes and stuff of that sort.
And so you mentioned the drug task force, and that's one of those kind of countywide concepts that seems like they've been able to really tackle a lot of the drugs that have been here in Warren County. I mean, you see quite well. I don't want to say quite often, but it seems like when they present, "Hey, we've made an arrest" or whatever, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great group of core guys that's their mission, is to get drugs off our streets and get those drug dealers that are bringing it from other communities, other states, other countries even. And that's their main focus, is get those dealers off of our streets. And they've been doing a fantastic job. There's still work that we need to do, but they really are hammering them.
How hard is it to, from start to finish, really get an investigation like that going and then see it all the way through to, prosecution and conviction?
Yeah. So the drug cases are unique. I mean, they can start from a traffic stop, really, for, someone not having a tail light or a light on their license plate.
Right.
That turns into, hey, this guy's acting weird, to, wow, we found drugs in this car, or they're like, hey, I know this guy's dealing. And those kind of circumstances can create these larger investigations, so where we're able to prosecute and get dealers that are bringing like 22 pounds of meth into this community. Some of these cases, I mean, they can be quick. Other ones are, like you've seen, multi-month investigations and can incorporate the Attorney General's office, Homeland Security, the DEA. I mean, some of them can really snowball into multi-jurisdictional cases.
And so one of the things that I'll see quite often, especially in some of those, investigations that are, months long or whatever, is, we'll put in, hey, this is the result of a, 9-month investigation. And inevitably, somebody says, well, why did they wait so long? Why didn't you, the first time you saw somebody walk in there, you're, gung ho and leading the charge? And, how much of that is because you're trying to just grasp the full extent of what this case involves?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the cases we hear a lot of rumors, like this person's involved, this person's involved. We want to make sure that we're getting the right people. Yeah. We want to make sure that we're getting those suppliers. And we want to do an investigation that we know is correct and that we're getting the evidence needed to prosecute. And sometimes, unfortunately, that takes time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is not a new problem, and certainly drugs don't seem to be something that's going to just disappear, right? Unfortunately, anytime soon. But how much of it is just in terms of trying to limit the incoming flow of drugs into Warren County, and how do we really combat stopping some of those influxes to get these things off our streets?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, you got drugs coming from Mexico, from Canada, from Michigan, all over the place. And that's what our drug task force is doing the most, is to try to find, the head of those organizations, the main suppliers in here, and get them out of here, and that's what they've been doing quite well the last few years. I mean, like Leaf said, there's a lot of work that still needs to get done. And that's something that I want to continue doing, ramp it up, try to keep getting these drug dealers off our streets.
And so you mentioned, current district attorney's Rob Green, and coming up the end of his second term. How beneficial was it for you as a candidate now? I mean, he gave a lot of lead time, announced over a year in advance, I think, that he would not seek reelection. As a candidate, how beneficial is that to have that kind of lead up to really, decide and kind of say, okay, this is what I want. I want to go after this, and this is what we have to do to get it done.
I mean, when Rob told me, it was a no-brainer. I said, yes, I want to, but it's a family decision. It was something I talked over with my wife to make sure she was on board. But it was, Rob told me at noon, and I had a decision by 3 o'clock type of thing. But given us that year really helped me get, things in place, planning out how I want to run my campaign, the things that I want to do, my vision, my plans for moving forward. It gave me more of an opportunity than saying, Rob telling us in December that he's not running in January. So that it was definitely beneficial in game planning what I want to do.
And so I think, obviously we're seeing a lot of, election kind of stuff going on nationally and things like that right now. And obviously you've not run a national campaign, but how much different, or what, just in terms of scale, what it is to run, in Warren County, as opposed to maybe even, looking at like a state attorney general or something, as far as scaling your campaign and the kind of, fundraising and things that you would need to do for that.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I've never done a state one, so that would be a hard thought for me to have, but it's been very beneficial. I have a lot of supportive people that have run campaigns that are helping me on my committee, and just being from Warren County, knowing the different communities, knowing what the community expects from you and what the community wants is very beneficial. If you're doing a whole state, you got a lot of different perspectives.
Sure.
Our perspective here in Warren County is different than what you might get in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. But being from here, I feel more connected, and we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy process, but it's one that I'm really enjoying and doing.
And so shortly after Rob made his announcement, he was a guest on this program. And, obviously the kind of, I guess, the controversial thing with his announcement was the medical marijuana. And he mentioned, as we were talking, that, one of the things that he kind of used was his prosecutorial discretion, especially when it came to like marijuana and things like that. Is that something that you expect, if you're elected, to kind of continue? Will you change that? I mean, what can people expect to see from a discretionary standpoint, from a Cody Brown district attorney?
So that's funny. When I was out getting my signatures, that was one of the main questions people asked me from all over the county was, what's your stance on marijuana? And like you said, there is prosecutorial discretion, and that's something that's set by the office as a DA. And Rob has exercised that in limiting his prosecution of marijuana. My stance is a little different. I am not in favor of legalizing marijuana. That's something that I've always said. So my plan and my thoughts is the legislature has made that an illegal crime at this time. And in my position as the district attorney, that's what we would do. We would follow the rules of the law until the legislature changes that. And that's my plan moving forward. Marijuana DUIs, marijuana possessions, we'd be prosecuting that until that law's changed.
Well, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more coffee and a conversation with District Attorney candidate Cody Brown right after this.
For 40 years, the Warren Forest High Ed Council has been your access to lifelong learning. Registration for SkillQuest Career Exploration and summer camps is open now. Reserve your student spot today. Make 2025 the summer you take the next step with a problem-solving and goal-setting course, QuickBooks 1 and 2, Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Training, and Excel 1 and 2. Go to high-ed.org or call 814-723-3222 to register now. Founded in 1978 and headquartered in Warren, Pennsylvania General Energy has become a leading oil and natural gas producer in the Appalachian Basin. PGE is a proud and growing organization making positive contributions to the region's economy and environment. We are equally proud of our commitment to safety and environmental programs. PGE is a strong, family-oriented company that believes in giving back to the communities in which we live, work, and play. PGE, producing the energy we need, protecting the environment we treasure. Are you always juggling your schedule? Sports, after-school activities, trying to squeeze in stuff on your lunch break? Tired of taking a vacation to run your dog around? Save that vacation and let us do the running. At Wendy's Wellness Service, we can pick up your dog and transport them to the groomers, your local vet, or even to the park. Safe, reliable, and friendly service to give you and your dog a great experience. In need of a barn maintenance or hay crew? We have hardworking folks that can help you get your farm ready. Call or text 814-706-9534 to get your team booked now.
And welcome back here to the Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg with you on Your Daily Local. We're joined this week by Warren County First Assistant District Attorney and potentially future Warren County District Attorney, Cody Brown. And, Cody, one of the things you mentioned before we went to break is, you kind of stay away from some of those cases involving child abuse because you serve on the board of the CAC, the Children's Advocacy Center, which is, one of the great resources that we have here in Warren County. But I know that's not the only board that you serve on, and what kind of drew you to want to do, be part of not just that board, but some of the other, boards and organizations that you're part of?
Yeah, so the CAC, I've been on that basically since it was an inception with Rob Green. I got on the board. We started a hiring process, and I've been on there for, I think it's coming up on 7 years. And that I was really drawn to that because at that time I was handling more of the sex crimes. And I wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity and a place for children to go to that felt safe and was able to be interviewed for possible prosecution of crimes. And yeah, like you said, I do sit on other boards. I sit on the school board. I sit on the board of some other organizations, and I'm an officer on some other local organizations. But being on all those boards and different groups really has helped build leadership skills that have helped me feel confident that I'm ready for this job.
So I guess, just a comparison from a campaign standpoint, right? You mentioned being on the school board. How different has this campaign been than running for school board?
Well, for school board, we're broken up into regions. I'm in Region 1, so the city, Glade area. Now running for district attorney, it's a countywide. So, I'm not just going out to get signatures in the city or in Glade Township and the surrounding area there. I'm out seeing more of the community, making sure that the community knows me, the Columbus area, the Sheffield area, the Sugar Grove area.
TDU, right?
Yeah. TDU, yeah. So it's a different way of running a campaign. But it's still the same thing. We want what's best for our community and make people feel and understand that that's our main goal, is to make our community safer, and that's what I plan to do.
And so what lessons you mentioned, being in some of those leadership positions, what lessons have you drawn from some of those other boards and organizations that you've been a part of that you could apply to the district attorney's office?
It's being in those positions, I've learned sometimes you got to make tough decisions. And sometimes those decisions aren't the one that everyone wants. Yeah. But you have to go into that decision being well-informed, doing what you feel is best for that organization. That was one of the biggest things that I've learned being in leadership roles is you need to do what's best for that organization or for that group. And that's your main goal, is to make sure it's run correctly and can expand and grow.
Is that personally, is that kind of a difficult lesson to learn sometimes when you first get into those positions, that you're going to be facing situations where no matter what you do, somebody's going to be left feeling unsatisfied?
Yeah, and I mean that's not what you want.
Right.
You want everyone to accept the decisions that are made, but like no matter where you're at, not everyone's gonna like what you do. But my main thing was I want to make sure that I feel right with what I'm doing and what my decision is, and feel that I'm doing what's best for that group or that organization.
And how much of that is, do you think sometimes people maybe not understanding all the things that you're, because when you're in those positions, sometimes you become privy to things that maybe aren't said publicly or aren't well known. How much of that dissatisfaction sometimes you think is just people not fully understanding what all's going into a decision, or just not being in a position to where they have all of the same information that you have?
Yeah, I mean that makes it difficult, because you're hoping everyone's seeing the same thing that you are, and you're hoping everyone gets the same understanding that you are. But sometimes the ability to explain things or get that information out does cause miscommunication or difficulty in understanding. So that does cause some issues when decisions are made. Sure.
Oh, excuse me. And so if you go on past, obviously we said the primaries on May 20th, make sure you get out and vote, regardless of who you vote for. Go vote. That's my plug. I always say that. But so we go from May 20th, and then general elections on November 4th. If come November 5th, you find out that you're going to be the next Warren County District Attorney, what can people expect from you as a district attorney?
Yeah, you can expect me to be out in the public. That's one thing I wanted to do. That's something that I've been doing as a first assistant, is going to those safety fairs, being out in the schools doing presentations, going to churches giving presentations. That's one thing you can expect from me, and something that I'll continue to do. I want to be out in the public and let people know that I'm one of you guys as well.
Right.
I'm not anyone special. I'm still a citizen of Warren County. I want you to feel comfortable to come up and talk to me, and feel free to, tell me that you might not agree with something, and we can have that conversation if it's appropriate. But that's one thing that you'll see from me. You also will see me continuing our fight to get drugs off our street. That's a big passion of mine. I think a lot of the crime that we see is associated to substance use. And that's
directly or indirectly.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Whether it's thefts because you're trying to fund your addiction, or it's causing DUIs or assaults or something of that sort. But you'll see me ramp that up. That's something I think we're doing well now, but I'd like to see us do a little bit more. But you will see integrity from my office, and you will see an active DA from our office.
And so you mentioned, going out to the schools and stuff. You just recently gave a presentation for 8th graders. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was just kind of explaining to them, basically your role in the justice system, right? Or you kind of walk us through what was that?
So I believe it was last Tuesday. All the 8th grade classes from Warren County came to the courthouse, and we had a kind of a civics day. We explained to them what a district attorney does, what a defense attorney does. We ran through some scenarios on what disorderly conduct would be, like, if you're yelling bomb in an airport or something. It was one of the examples. But we also
don't do that, by the way.
That's not good. But we went through the process of how we pick a jury. We had some of the kids participate as jurors, and they told us, this is my background. I'm a baseball coach. I never went to college. I'm married. Would you want me on this case?
Yeah.
So we went back and forth with the prosecutor side and the defense side, and picked and choose and explained to kids why we'd want that. So it was good seeing the kids actually interact, and they seem to enjoy it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's such that like 7th, 8th, 9th grade time frame. I feel like that's really when, they're such sponges and can be molded and shaped by something you might not even realize, that someday one of those kids may come back and want to be, Warren County District Attorney one day. And it all started because they went to that presentation. So it's good to hear that they were, engaged and involved and taking part of that. I know my oldest is getting into that, that span of, and I'm always curious, what's she gonna gravitate towards,
And then some of those kids knew that I do the presentation on Judge Wade, so they come up afterwards and like, "Where's the bullet holes?" It was fun, Come on, kids, I'll show you where they're at, and explain to them. A lot of them didn't know about that,
right? Yeah,
and they're like, "Really, a judge died here?" And I said, "Yeah, unfortunately," and showed them different areas where the bullets were.
So, and you've done that for a number of years now, that presentation.
Yeah, I think I've done it for 2 or 3 years now.
So what got you started? What made you want to kind of tackle that? And
it was one of the really interesting history things from Warren County. When I first learned about it, I think I was a senior in high school when we came for Law Day. I mean, I've heard rumors of it, but actually seeing it then. And now working in the prosecutor's office, I was there when we got some of the information about that case. I believe a family member had some old files about it that's now in the Historical Society. And that really got me into it. And then I was asked by a group to do a presentation. So I did one for them, and it went over really well. And then the Historical Society say, "Hey, why don't you give us that?" And it's something that I've been able to build on every presentation, finding more photos, finding out more stories. I mean, even this last one, I had a family member, I think it was the son of the doctor who treated Norman Moon, called me and say, "Hey, did you know that he sent us Christmas cards every year for like the first 4 or 5 years while he was in prison?" So that was something neat that I was able to add to my presentation.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that was, we've been doing a touring Warren County summer series for a couple of years. And last year I took my daughter out to the Wilder Museum. And I didn't realize they had, the gun and that stuff on display there all the time. So if you ever get a chance, go check out the Wilder Museum. You can see the gun, or, wait till next January when Cody gives his presentation again. But, and talk about it, just a treasure trove of county history. My goodness. I mean, you wouldn't think about it just looking at it from the outside. There's so much in there, but yeah, it was really interesting to kind of get a snapshot of that. And then, go back and we had our student employee, Gracie, came and covered your presentation this year. And so one of the first things I asked her was like, "All right, how much did you learn?" And she's like, "I didn't know any of it." So giving back to the students of Warren County, right? And so was there ever a time, in your career, kind of seems like it went quickly from, law school to clerking to the prosecutor's office. Was there ever a point where you thought about, private practice, being a defense attorney, any of those other options? Did you always want to be a prosecutor?
So when I went to law school, everyone learns the same courses. You learn about personal injury, criminal law, real estate, stuff like that. But I focused a lot when I was in law school on estate planning, real estate, the family law side of things. But when I started clerking, I saw the criminal side, and I really got drawn to the different things that had to be done, the presentation of evidence, the collaboration with the DA's office and law enforcement. And that completely changed my mind. And that was something I'm like, I want to be a prosecutor. And I was, like I said, I was lucky enough that position was created when I was clerking, and I jumped on it right away. And I wouldn't look back in a heartbeat. I really enjoyed it. I really don't have any interest in going out in private practice. I enjoy what I
do. And so one of the things you mentioned when you were talking about the presentation to the kids was, picking a jury and stuff. And how often do we actually get jury trials here in Warren County? I mean, it just seems like a thing that's just not that regular.
Yeah, I mean, we have 4, sometimes 5 trial terms a year, and normally every trial term will have 1 or 2 trials. Sometimes I've been unfortunate; I've had 3 trials in 2 weeks. So you never know what you're going to get. but they do happen. Sometimes they're nothing that really get a lot of publicity.
Right.
They're second, third offense DUIs or a retail theft.
Yeah.
They're not all your arsons or your homicide
Right,
cases
yeah.
and stuff like that, but they still do occur.
Sure. And so from a prosecutor standpoint, what kind of generally goes into, all right, we know we're at this defendant wants to go to trial.
Mhm.
What is the process like from the prosecutor side, just to kind of prepare and get ready to?
So that whole process, it starts with what we call a settlement conference. And that's where we talk with the defense attorney, say, hey, this is what I'm looking at as offering as a plea for your client. Is this something that they want? They'll get back to us, and we have what's called counter call. And that's they're going to plea, or we're going to trial, or they're going to continue the case. And once we know that it's going to trial, we pick a date right then, and we pick a jury within a week or two. As soon as I pick that jury, the first thing I do is contact law enforcement, let them know, hey, we got a trial, let's get together, prepare. I go through my case, make sure I have all the evidence that I need, the police reports, and then I create myself a trial note. So I have every witness that I have, what aspects and what elements of that crime I want from them, what their testimony I'm expecting or hoping to get from them, and how I'm going to present that evidence. And that's how I prepare for a trial. So I'm very, like a timeline type of guy, but that's how I keep track and make sure that I'm getting the evidence that I need out and making sure that the jury understands it. That's the biggest thing at a jury trial is I may understand it and say, yeah, it's a no-brainer, but I need to be able to convey that to the jurors and make sure that they understand it so I can get that conviction.
It's funny you say that, because I found myself kind of having this conversation a lot over the last couple of months. Is that I feel like sometimes within an industry, right, you get in that little bubble, and you say things or present things in a certain way, and you presenting it to another prosecutor. Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, no problem. Presenting it to me, and I'm like, huh, what? Right? It's so. How difficult is it then to make sure that when you're presenting those things in front of a jury of the defendant's peers that probably are going to come from all different walks of life?
Yeah. So a lot of my trial prep, I'll actually do at home too. And I'll just go with my opening statement. I have it written. I know what I want to say and convey. I'll read it to my wife. She's not in the legal realm. She's a teacher. And she gives me that different perspective. And I'll read it to her, and she'll say, what are you trying to tell me? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? It's right there. But
I wrote it all down.
Yeah, exactly. But by doing that, and I also use our secretaries in our office, and the more people that I can convey that to before trial, I get their perspective, and that helps me in the courtroom. Because that's the biggest thing is you need to make sure those 12 jurors know what you're trying to say.
And so basic jury trial. I mean, obviously I'm sure everybody's familiar with the courtroom drama, right? But realistically, how often does something like that happen in a jury trial where there's the aha moment kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's not like you see in the movies. Like, in I believe it's the movie with Tom Cruise where he gets the colonel to say, yes, I did order the Cobra.
Yes.
That doesn't happen. I mean, once in a while you'll get an individual who you're walking down this way and they're not telling the truth, and then you can slip it in and get them caught up. But most of the time, anything that I have for discovery-wise, which would be any evidence that I have, any statements, anything like that, I have to give that to the defense attorney.
Sure.
So there's no surprises. It's the same with them. If they have things that they're presenting at court, they have to give it, for the most part, over to us as well. So that really cuts down on that gotcha moment. But it still does happen, just not, him screaming on the stand.
Yes, I do. So, all right. Well, Cody, I know you're a busy guy, even campaigning and still prosecuting at the same time. So I don't want to take up too much of your time here. And the deer have left us, so that might be a signal that it might be a storm front coming in here. But I do want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and sit down with us and explain who you are, what you're about, and what we could expect to see if you are elected district attorney in Warren County.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of Coffee and a Conversation. I want to thank you all for taking some time out to join us this week. And stay tuned to yourdailylocal.com for more Coffee and a Conversation. For Cody Brown, this is Brian Hagberg on Your Daily Local saying thank you so much for watching and have a great week.
Here at Casella, we make temporary dumpster rental easy, offering services that are perfect for construction, remodeling, special events, or other short-term projects. Casella dumpsters are available in a wide range of sizes to fit any job. Our dedicated customer service team will help you choose the right size container and service level for your project and schedule hassle-free removal based on your specific needs. The right size dumpster, when you want it, where you want it, removed when